We're going to learn the Zohar in Parshas Achrei Mois. Daf Nun Ches Omid Aleph. Parshas Achrei Mois speaks about what happened when the two sons of Aharon went into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and it didn't work out well for them. And so then came a warning to the priests. Not every time is the right time to enter in to the deepest areas of the soul. So this goes back to the concept of time. Time, the revelation of the infinite essence. And so through time get revealed different portions of the essence. Just like if we want to get to know a human being, we'll have to spend time with them in order to see different sides of their behavior, different sides of their personality. And through uniting all these bits and pieces of soul, we try to get some type of an idea of what we're interacting with. The same goes for life itself. The same goes for the infinite essence. We're interacting with the infinite essence. We want to know the infinite essence, but different portions of the infinite essence get revealed through time. And each time has specific areas that it emphasizes and specific areas that are relatively dormant and not participating. And all this comes back to the metaphor of the body, which is the metaphor to everything to do with existence. And so in the metaphor, sometimes a certain organ is in the lead and other organs are taking a back seat. Right now, for example, as I'm speaking, my mouth is very active. My legs are very inactive. And so it goes for all the other organs based on the fact that now the mouth is in the lead, the intelligence is expressing itself. So the organs will take different levels of expression in order to match the activity of what's trying to be expressed. So as I'm expressing myself through the mouth, it doesn't mean I'm just mouth. It means I'm revealing a portion of my potential. And then another time, I will be doing other activities that relate to different body parts, and they're also part of my essence. And so the soul is revealing its essence. It's revealing its essence in all the different organs. And in each organ, it's revealing a different portion of the essence. And so in the function of that organ, we see the essence of the soul. Then how we use the organ, that tells us something about the individual. That tells us something about the one who is using the organs. And so when I'm expressing with my mouth, there are two things happening. One, I'm using a mouth, I'm using speech. That's not mine. That was there way before me. But then there is the combinations of different sparks of soul that I'm combining specifically so, and that's an expression of my essence. That's an expression of something that is close to my heart that someone else wouldn't know how to say in this way. That's unique to me. And so over time is a revelation of essence, and this is the nature of speech. We can't speak without time. Bidvar Hashem Shamayim Nasu, the heavens reveal through time the essence that resides within all. And so here he says, Vayomer Hashem al Moshe, Daber el har nechicho, val yovoi b'cholei sel hakodesh. Hashem says, tell the priests that they need to pay attention to time. There are times for different things. The sons didn't respect the time. And therefore, they ruined something that was a very special time. It got ruined because there was a tragedy. And so the priests need to know how to respect the time. They're interacting with something bigger, something higher, something that can annihilate us. And so therefore we have to respect the different modes. Just like if I want a favor from a person, I'm not going to come ask for that favor if he's in a bad mood, because the odds are that if he's not in the right mood, he will say, absolutely not. And so I want to come when there's the right mood, and then there's a better chance. The spiritual realms, they have moods. Moods mean which angels are in charge. Whenever there's a different angel in charge, there's a different mood. The same goes for the small world, which is the human being. The human being is just a demonstration of the big world. The human being has nothing unique to the individual. Everything human being means that this is part of the collective essence that's being expressed. We're just a microcosm of that collective essence. We're all representing the same thing. Within us lives the same thing. Within our organs is being said the same message. On the essential level. This is why we speak. We all speak. Meaning we represent the life force as it dresses up in speech. And there we are all united. There we are all the same thing, spiritually speaking. But what we can speak differentiates. What we can speak is based on how much of that infinite essence has been revealed to us. We collect what happens over time into our soul. And so the priests need to know the times in order to know how to approach the spiritual reality that we are interacting with, that from there we receive life, and from there we receive everything that we have, every detail, every experience, every sensation, everything that was in us and everything that comes into us. We receive it only from one place. And so we need to know how to interact with that place. What is the nature of that place? That place meaning the source from where everything comes forth. How can we influence what's coming forth so that it makes it more suitable to the ones who are here, the ones who are incarnated physically, and to the original intention of why we were designed to be this way in the first place? Reb Shimon Posach, Reb Shimon is going to open up the eyes of the spirit so that she can see more closely. And so he starts with a different pasuk. All rivers flow to the sea, but the sea can never become full. Now, he's going to go off on a bit of a tangent here because he's upset with us. He thinks we're not using our brain and our heart and our organs wisely. He believes that the way that we spend the most precious thing the universe has to offer is disrespectful. The way that we spend our life is disrespectful to life. And so he says, Omer Reb Shimon, Tavano al b'nei Olmo, I wonder about the people of this world. Du leslihi einen lemechse, they have no eyes to see. V'libo le'ashgecho v'lo yodin. They have a heart that is supposed to observe, but they are not observing, they are not connecting, they are not knowing. They're not directing their attention, they're not directing their hearts to discover the desire of the one who made them. He says, I wonder about these people. I wonder what is wrong with them. You see yourself, a complex being. You see that there was great intention invested in your design, and yet you don't try to ask, what is it that he wanted with this design? You don't ask this simple question, why would he make it? What was the intention? The intention of our eyes we know. The intention of our ears we know. The intention of our hands. The intention of our feet we know. We know intrinsically, oh, someone had this intention. Yes, feet were made for walking. It's not that we figured something out. No, it's built that way. It's designed for a reason. A mouth is made to speak. It was designed for a reason. And so a soul, the one that resides in all of these organs, oh, there was no intention, it just happened like that. Now do whatever you want and it's fine, no one cares. Seriously? I wonder about these people. What is wrong with them? What happened to them that they can't see the obvious? Why aren't they asking to understand the nature of their design? What did he want? What was his intention? Obviously, he didn't mean to create chaos. He didn't create chaos. Within our design, there's no chaos. So how come within our interactions there's chaos? What went wrong? How are they not questioning? That's what he wonders about. Heich naimen, how are they sleeping? Veloy misare mishunisei, they don't wake up from their slumber. Ad lo yesa hi yoyme dechof ele echashoicho vekablo. One day, they will regret not asking this question. This question is not optional. This question is a must. Because if we haven't asked this question, we are certainly going against the will of our designer. If we have asked this question, we're still not sure if we're going against the will of our designer, but at least we asked the question. And so, teach us. But if we haven't asked the question, one day we're going to wake up and we're going to realize that we invested the most precious of anything that exists in the universe in a place where it's not safe, in a place that doesn't carry the right meaning, that doesn't carry the right spiritual weight. It's a bad deal. Giving away soul to something that doesn't have spiritual weight is a bad deal. And the soul doesn't like when we do bad deals with the most precious that exists. So how are they sleeping? And they don't realize that something might be wrong with simply giving it away without asking the right question. So he says the day will come that they will find themselves in a problem. The one who gave them the soul will say, well, what did you do with my soul? I gave you soul. You can speak, you can think, you can do. Knock yourself out. But one day, the question is going to be asked. You had the chance. You did, you said. What was it that you chose? Out of all the things you could do, what did you choose to do? What was meaningful to you? What was it based on? Why was it meaningful? Which authority was the one that convinced you or allowed you to believe that it's meaningful? So meaningful that you invested your soul. And so the one who owns the soul is going to have questions about how did we use the soul? What did we create with the soul? Where did we invest the soul? So he's going to ask for some type of a calculation of what was this about for you and what did you do with it? Every day there is an announcement. The soul is loyal to its creator, not to the one who is thinking inside of it. The soul has to be loyal to the creator in order to continue receiving life. It's not loyal to its own thoughts. And so every night the soul loyally goes up into the higher realms, and those higher realms are also represented in certain areas in our brain, and the soul writes down everything that happened that day. And then that becomes part of us. It's part of our soul now. Our own soul wrote it down. This is what happened. It doesn't lie. It doesn't twist. It doesn't move from reality, from the truth. If it does, it would cease to exist immediately. It receives life on the condition that it remains with reality at all times. Anything that leaves reality is not alive. It's an illusion of life. It doesn't really exist. And so every night, the soul testifies to everything that happened. The Torah is screaming in all directions. She calls out and she says, Ad mosai pesoim ta'avu pesi. How long would the fools love foolishness? That's the way the wisdom sees the activities of the world. All this busyness, everybody running, foolishness. What is a fool? A fool can't tell the difference between an accurate belief and an inaccurate belief. A fool, you can make him believe. They're all fools. They've been made believe. They're living in a make-believe world. They're spending their soul in a make-believe world. Even if they don't care about what they're doing. Their soul is in it because they're doing it. Their soul is in it because it takes life to do it. It takes time to do it. So then, that's soul, that's life, that's the highest currency in the universe. What are we buying with this currency? She says, if you're a fool, come learn Torah. Why? Because you're lacking a heart. Why can you believe everything? Because you're lacking a heart. You don't consult. Your brain doesn't consult with your heart before it comes to conclusions about what's real and what's not real. Therefore, you can't know what's real. Therefore, you're a fool. And so she says, Mi pesi yaserhena, you're a fool, come to me. Chasar lev amrullah. She calls him one who is missing a heart. Lechu lachmi belachmi, come eat my bread, ishsu beyain mesachti, and drink my wine, and then you will become wise. Then you will realize that the way things work over here, the desire of the designer is very different than the behavior of the designed. The consciousness within the worlds is going against the consciousness that created the worlds. The consciousness within the worlds is vulnerable. It can get hurt. The consciousness that created the worlds is not vulnerable. It will always win. Humanity is going to have to surrender their foolishness. It will happen. All the prophets foresaw it. They would probably all be surprised by how long we've held on to our foolishness. And yet, it doesn't matter how long we hold on to our foolishness. At the end, humanity will become intelligent enough and they will drop their foolishness. Because they're not helping themselves. They're destroying themselves. The will of the Creator is the sweetest. The will of the Creator is continuous pleasure in all dimensions. The will of the Creator is perfection, where there's never a lack, where there's never sorrow, where there's never any type of offense to the soul. That's the will of the Creator. That's the will that humanity is resisting, because they think they know better. That's the level of foolishness. And it takes quite an effort to resist. It doesn't happen alone. There isn't anyone who will open their ears and listen to the truth, or wake up their heart and feel the truth. They're so busy. They're so stressed, but not for the right reasons. There is reason to be stressed, but it has to be accurate. Toch hazi, ze min in dore basro de yaisen de yisnische reise mi benei. There is going to be a time that the generations are going to be so far from the source that they're going to forget the instructions, that they're going to forget what it is that we are discussing, says Reb Shimon. They're going to forget how to interpret what is being said in a way that reconnects them to the truth. All the wise will leave the world. There won't be anyone who can understand these deep subjects in order to explain, to allow people to understand what the will of the Creator really is. What is the intention of this design? People will lose their sensitivity. People will no longer be able to tune in. And so even though we have the words of the Torah, there won't be who has the right heart to understand the message that's being said. Vailahi Dora. Woe to that generation. It says, from the generation of Reb Shimon until the time that Mashiach comes, there won't be a generation like this generation. Because when Mashiach comes, knowledge will awaken in the world. People will understand things that before were a mystery, that before they were not capable of understanding. דכסיב כי כולם ידעו אותי מקטנם ועד גודלם. They will all know me from small to big. This means that even children, as they are born, we will never disconnect them from their innate knowledge. We will never disconnect them from their soul. And so from small till big, all ages are going to live on the level of soul. They're going to be attached to their inner core. They're not going to be vulnerable. They're not going to be foolish the way that we are foolish. They're not going to give away their life force the way that we give away our life force. They're going to know the will of the Creator, and that's what they're going to follow. They're going to gain insight. They're going to gain wisdom. And that's going to connect them deeper to life. Tochazi, now he's going to start teaching. That was his pain talking, because he knew what's coming and he knew that that's the decree. That the behavior of humanity has been such that the wisdom had to leave the planet, and the planet was going to go into darkness. And so he felt for us more than we feel for ourselves. It pained him, our condition, our situation, more than it pains us. Because he understood what we are missing. We haven't tasted what we're missing. We don't remember it. Tochazi, come and see Ksiv, it says, V'nor yotzem Eden. The river flows from Eden. And so this goes back to the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden is the source of life, the source of intelligence that creates life. And so there's a river that goes out from Eden. What's the name of the river? The name of this river is Yuval. This river of Yuval is related to Yovel, is related to the freedom that comes when we finish the cycle of 50, which represents the Chamishim Shari Bina. So when we go through a full cycle and our attributes are refined, we get to a deeper level of freedom that's called Yovel. And then each soul returns to its source, because the Bina, the Yovel, is the soul itself. So the soul goes out into the world, it flows like a river into life, and it dresses up as many things. And this is because it's discovering its own essence over time, and so it goes through cycles of time. 7 represents time. 7 times 7 is a full cycle, and then the 50th year is Yovel, is a returning to the soul. And there everything goes back to its origin. Everything rediscovers itself. After it went out, and it learned, and it discovered, and it knew, then it comes back. And this is similar to the cycle of life, where we come out into the world, we come out into the body, we learn, we discover, and then we're absorbed back into life. Then we go back to the Olam HaNeshomas, we go back to being soul. And so this is how we learn, and we discover, and we grow. And so this river that comes out of Eden, the name of it is Yuval. B'Sifra de Rav Amnina Saba had his own name for this river. He called it Chaim, Chaim Shmei. His name is life. This river is called life. The river flows from Eden. Eden is the source that comes out from the Ein Sof, from the place that we can't contemplate. So from the place that we can't contemplate comes forth a will, comes forth a desire for life, and that comes out as a river called life. Because from this river flows life to all the world, to all of life. The river is called the life of the king. It's the life of the king because this river, as it comes out, we call it HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Once the river starts flowing, we call it HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But from where does the river come? It comes from Eden, and it comes through the Bina, that's called life, that's called soul. ותכים nahi elona rabbe v'takifa, this great tree, this big strong tree, the mozen lekoy lebei, that feeds all the souls. Ikra eitz Chaim, it's called the tree of life. Ilona denota shorshe bin Chaim v'koy leushaper. It's a tree that planted its roots in life itself, and from there comes forth life to all that exists. And so the water of this river is life. And the river is flowing and it's giving life. And that life we call the tree of life. The tree of life, how does it have life? Because it's growing from the river. The river feeds it life, and then the tree is filled with life. And then from this tree, we have the branches. These are the different families. And the branches go to more branches, and this is the evolution of life, how life evolves. V'tona, we learned that river brings out deep wells of water with balsam oil. Shachrevis is the oil that with that oil they would crown the kings. And so that oil comes forth from the deep wells of this river. Lashko ginso, to give moisture to the garden. Ileravoy ilonin, and to give the liquids to the trees that need to be nourished. And so it comes into the garden and it nourishes the trees. To give the water to the trees and to the plants. Yizbu atze Hashem, may the trees of Hashem be satiated. Arze levonon asher noto is the arozim, the wood that comes from Levonon that he planted, and this is representative of the human body. The human body is called Arzei Levonon because the limbs are like wood, and Levonon is the white seed from which the body grows forth. And so the body is called Arzei Levonon Asher Nota. These are the trees from Levonon that Hashem himself planted. All these rivers get pulled forward and they get gathered up in two vessels. And these vessels are called Yochene Boyas. And so the life force comes forth from the source, from Eden, and it becomes life. And it gives to all the limbs, it gives to all the organs. It satiates all that require life, all the cells, all the functions, all the spirits. Everything gets satiated by this river that's bringing forth life. And then the life gathers up in these two vessels called Yochen and Boyaz that represent the Netzach and the Hoid. In the body it represents the kidneys, the legs, and the testicles all represent Netzach and Hoid. And these are the places where the life force, the energy gets gathered, and then it gets delivered so that it becomes shefa, so that it becomes sustenance. This is the same process that happens when life happens. When life happens, it happens in human form. And so the way that life gathers in our body, and the way that we formulate, the way that we create children, this represents the process that creates life itself. This is the continuous process that is always creating life. And so this is the significance of how we create children and how we interact with life. It all is a metaphor for something that is actually taking place, and through that process we're receiving life. And so the meaning of life and the way that we live life relates to this metaphor. And so here we're learning the process of the river of life. How does it become life? So it goes through the same process as the human life force, as it goes through our body and gives us life and gives us sustenance, and then moves forward to the next generation and creates a child. It creates a new arzei levanon, a new trees that will grow out of a white seed. And these are the plans of the Creator. When we create children, it's said that 3 partners are involved. There's the father and the mother that are creating the body, but then there is the divine inspiration that's creating the soul. And so the soul gets created by the 3rd partner. And that's really his planting. That's arzei levanon asher, the plants that he planted. It's not that human beings can plant. We can't plant soul. We can plant body, and he will participate and create soul. So the life force gathered. The foundation of the world is the tzaddik, is the midas hayisoid that passes the life force from the male to the female, so that it can develop further, so that it can become a complete life. And so the same way, in the way that we receive life, there is a portion of the Creator that enters into creation in order to create life. And so this represents the tzaddik yesod, and this is the foundation upon which all life is based, is that the Creator somehow shows up within creation and creates life. Everything that receives life receives through this process. So that's called tzaddik yesod olam. That one who gives the life to humanity is called tzaddik yesod olam, because he is the part of the Creator that is creating within creation. V'kili aslin emiskanchen lahu asar dikre yom, v'hu yama dechachmasa. Hadur dechsiv kol ha'nechol ha'malchum el hayom. So now we're getting back to the pasuk that we started with, that all the rivers are flowing to the sea, and the sea is never filled. So he says, this process is the process of how we receive intelligence. And so when the tzaddik yesod olam is mashpia, he is mashpia within the chachma, the midas ha-chachma, so when the tzaddik yesod olam is mashpia, he is mashpia within the chachma, and yet there's always more chachma to be learned. We're going to continue in this process of discovery for the unforeseeable future, for as long as we can imagine and more, for something we would now call eternity. We're going to continue peeling layers of revealing the wisdom that's already here, yet we don't have the vessel to tap into it. And that wisdom is going to give us sustenance. It's going to make us feel alive. It's going to make us feel more alive than food can make us feel. Food can make our body feel alive, but the wisdom is going to make our soul feel alive. When the soul is alive, it's a whole different experience. The world was not created for a body to be alive without a soul. That's cruel. This is one of the cruelties that happened because we have neglected the ways of the Creator. We have neglected the will. One of the cruelties that happened is that we live in a body that's not inspired by soul. That's cruel. It shouldn't happen. And so when the day will come that the wisdom is going to spread in the world, then the soul will be alive because it will have so much wisdom that will give it sustenance, that will give it pleasure, that will give it joy, that will give it will and desire to be. ואיתי מדמות אל עשר דור פסקין ולא יסייבין, לבוס הכסיב על המוקם שהנחולם הולכים שם הם שווים ללכס. And so the process goes that we receive the wisdom, we process it, and then we send it back. And then there's an update, there's more wisdom, and then we get new wisdom based on what we have already processed. And this process continues forever. There's non-stop of us receiving inspiration, processing inspiration, and then there's more revelation, and then we process again, and the cycle continues. And this flow, this river of life, never ends. So they all come back to the tzaddik to create blessings and happiness. The Leviosan that you created in order for the world to have a continuance, in order for the world to have a purpose, in order for there to be interest in the process of life. So it says, what is this Leviosan? The Leviosan, the tzaddik, this is the tzaddik Yesod Olam is called the Leviosan. Kila melecho yisabedin lisosachlam b'itoi. Says, man itoi, do matroniso. The ikri itoi, the tzaddik. Everybody waits for you to get his food and his time. What is the time? The time is when the tzaddik is mashpia. When the tzaddik Yesod Olam is mashpia to the world, that's the time for that thing to happen. When the tzaddik Yesod Olam is not mashpia to the world, then there's not the time. And so the malchus, the world, the manifested reality, she receives based on the time of the tzaddik. According to how the time of the tzaddik, that's how she receives. It begin kach, kilo mechaken lahai ito, everybody waits for this time. Kilo le'idzenon lesata, all that want to be fed below. Me'asar do idzenon, from this place they get fed. V'rozo kimno, this is the secret of the pasuk, ein echol alecha yisaberu, v'ate noisle mesachlam b'itoi. All the eyes are to you, and you give their food in the time when the Yesod is mashpia on the malchus, in the time when the river flows into the one that's receiving life, and then that river feeds him, satiates all his organs the way that he needs. Tochazi, b'shate dahai kol mevasem le'itoi, the time that kol is sweetening the time, is chabre imei, so the Yesod is with the malchus, they're attached together. Kili almen b'cheidu, then all the worlds are in happiness. Kili almen b'birchon, all the worlds are getting blessings. Kedein shloma ishtekach b'eloi v'sato, then there's peace in the higher worlds and in the lower worlds. V'chad garmin chayova almo, but if the guilty ones of the world cause that there is anger, that there's frustration and conflict, then the river doesn't flow. The river starts drying up. There's no blessing coming forth from life because there's conflict, there's friction, there's anger, there's frustration. Then, what time is it? It's a difficult time. It's not the right time. It's not the time for soul. Soul is not pleased with what's happening. Then judgment comes forth in the world. There's no peace. When the people of the world want to get blessing, they can't do it only through the kahanim. Why? The kahanim always represent kindness. Once we lost kindness, then we had no more priests. Then the entire service was annihilated. Because the service means that the kind among us will awaken the attributes above so that we receive compassion. But if there is no longer kind among us because the cruel are in charge, so then we can have no longer a house of worship. We can no longer have who should go in front of the king and find compassion. One who is coming in conflict will certainly not find compassion. And so it says, they can only awaken blessings through the priests. Begin the Yisar Kisra delay, v'tizbrach maternisa, so that the priests can wake up the crown of the will above, and then the people below will receive blessing. The Shechina will receive blessing. And then all the worlds get blessing. So based on what happens in this world, accordingly happen in all the worlds. All the angels are all dependent on our interaction with reality. All the worlds are constantly shifting based on how we perceive, because they were all created in order to create this complex being that has all these parts that correlate with each other. And so as we are acting out this complex correlation, so too in all the heavens, this is what's being acted out. This is the reality that's taking place at this time. Moshe was asking at that time from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he says, Ibnei Omi Yisivin Kamocha Eldei Demam Mizbarchan. He said, if the people will return to you, who will bring them blessing? You're asking me, speak to your brother Aharon, the Kohen. He is in charge of all the blessings in the worlds above and in the worlds below. The blessings are here. We have to choose them. We choose the blessing and we choose the curse. And so the priest who remembers kindness, he can try to awaken blessing. And so speak to Aharon. It says, Vayomer Hashem Moshe, then Hashem says to Moshe, Daber al Anachicho, speak to Aharon, Val Yover b'chalei el HaKodesh, he shouldn't come at all times into the holiness. Rabbi says, Zimnan is kamet the kitchabrichi, there are times before Kadosh Baruch Hu lishtak choravon, when it's a time of desire. Ilishtak choberchon, it's a time of blessing. Ilamizba beisa, it's a time for prayer. V'zimnan, there's other times. The Rava lo yishtakochi, there's no desire. Ibirkon lo mizdamnan, there's no blessing. V'din and kasyan misarim ba'omo, and difficult judgments awaken on the world. V'zimnan the din tole, sometimes there's a judgment and the judgment cannot come out. Sometimes there are merits that protect us from judgments that are hanging over our heads. Tochazi, come and see. Zimnan is b'shato. There are times in the year the Rava ishtekach, when there is will. V'zimnan is b'shata. There are times in the year the din ishtekach, there is judgment. V'zimnan is b'shata. There are times in the year the din ishtekach v'talya. There are times when the din is there, but it's hanging, it's not coming out. Zimnan is b'yarcha. There are times in the month the Rava ishtekach be, that there is will. V'zimnan is b'yarcha. There are times in the month the din ishtekochi v'talyan al koila, that there are judgments. These times are not because there are predetermined times that there was going to be anger. These times are a result of us having better relationships with some organs and their functions, and more difficult relationship with other organs and their functions. And so as the months and the years and the seasons go by, all the different organs and all the different parts get emphasized in different times, in different days. And so based on how we have understood the organism, based on how we are interacting with life, based on that, certain days are going to be friendly to us, because those days, the things that we are good at, the things that we are, the energies that we are in a good relationship with are being emphasized and they're in charge. And some days are difficult. It's like, imagine if we said that a city is going to be run by a different person each day, and they're going to make the decisions of how to run the city. And so when your friends are running the city, you're doing well, and when your enemies are running the city, you have a problem. And so therefore he says, Val yover b'chalei el HaKodesh, see the situation, see the condition of the worlds, see the condition of the organism before you try to approach the soul. Because there are times of will, es ratzon, and everything will go, everything is good, everything is smooth. And times of judgment, and everything is complicated, and everything is difficult. The same goes, Zimnen is b'shavua, there's times in the week, there's desire, there's will. Zimnen is b'shavua, there's times in the week, there's judgment. Zimnen is b'yoyma, even in a single day. There are times, there's basma, there's will in the world, and the world is becoming sweetened. Zimnen is b'yoyma, the dinen talin mishtakchem, there's judgment. V'afilu b'shata, even in the hours. And so there's a reality that people who are close enough with themselves that they can be silent would be able to tune in to these moods. People also knew these moods ahead of time based on the tzirufim, based on the combinations of the letters, that according to these combinations is the leadership of the forces. And so they would know which forces are in charge in which times, and they would know which forces do we get along with and which forces are difficult for us to get along with. And so then they would know which times are times of will and which times are times of judgment. Well, doksiv, therefore the pasuk says, Ve'eis lechol chefetz tachas hashemayim. There's a time for every desire. There's a time for every expression. There's a time for everything that exists in us. If there was no time for it, it wouldn't exist. But it has to be done yofe be'itoy. It has to be done right in its time. Ichsiv, v'ani tfilosi lecho Hashem eis rotzoin. I pray to you, and I pray to you that it should be in the time of will. Or David HaMelech was praying when he saw that there was a time of will. He says, v'ani tfilosi lecho eis rotzoin. Now is the time of will, so therefore I'm praying. Ichsiv dirshus Hashem b'motzoi. Search for Hashem when He can be found. What does it mean when He can be found? He's everywhere and He's everything. But when He's accessible, when there's the right mood. Why, Hashem, do you stand from a distance and hide from us when we are suffering? I saw Hashem from the distance. Sometimes He's close. And so all these are different times. We have to understand the times to know which pasuk means which time. And so this time of the year, the time of Yom Kippur, is the time that there's the most ratzon. There's the most will. And the place where that will was most manifest was in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, in the Holy of Holies. And the soul that was the most intimate with that will from all souls was the soul of the high priest. And so on this day, in this time, this soul, in the Holy of Holies, that would bring down tremendous forgiveness. That would bring down tremendous compassion. That would make the infinite essence that reveals itself over time extremely accessible to the human soul. And so every year we try to tap into that place according to our ability, according to the accuracy of our intention that directs our nerves and directs our pulse to create the right conditions within our heart so that we can tune in to something real, so that we can direct our intention, we can direct our life force into something that's meaningful, into something that's going to continue with us and help us achieve life. And so therefore, begin kach, because there are these different times, because there are all these possibilities of what can happen when we approach the source. He should not come at any time into the holiness. He should be in a designated time, should be in the right time. And then there will come a time when He will be accessible always and forever. When this won't anymore be required, there will no longer be a time when there isn't will, when there isn't desire. This is a malfunction of the river, that we have unconsciously found the valve of this river, and we close the valve sometimes. But once we will wisen up, once we will overcome our foolishness, then we will no longer ever tighten the valve of the river. And then there won't be any of these malfunctions of anger, judgment, lack of desire. All these things will be a thing of the past. And then Imach Hashem Aleim Dimam Al Kol Panim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will wipe away the tears from all faces. Because at first we will cry tears of joy. But then we will be so used to the pleasure that we will no longer cry. We will never cry. Life will not be sad. No one will offend us. No one will want us harm. Everyone will be there for each other. Everyone will shine into each other's life so that we can have more, so that the river will flow more into the worlds. And then all times will be suitable to enter into the holiness. All places will be suitable to enter into the holiness. All souls will be suitable to enter into the holiness. May it happen now.